I've been a photographer for 38 years in my studio here in Albany. I've been in the same location the entire time. I still do a lot of portrait photography. That's a primary business that I'm in, and we continue to do that all the time to support what has now become like our passion almost, getting into fine art photography and going to different locations around the United States and even out of the United States to be able to capture images of places that we like to bring back and share with people from around our area. It's not just always driving up to a location and taking a photograph. A lot of times it's hiking in, or recently we had to rappel down into a canyon to take photographs. So we had to go to rappelling class to be able to do that, and swimming through cold mountain streams with all of our equipment and getting to locations that people don't generally have the opportunity to get to. It's just been really an exciting time for us to be able to photograph. And when I say us, it's usually my youngest son Isaac and myself that travel together to different locations and have opportunities to photograph what Mother Nature has to offer across the United States. It's absolutely amazing to be able to experience the same things that we have been able to go to. One of the places that we absolutely love to go to, and it's not just one place, it's southwest, so whether it's Colorado or Idaho, into Montana or Wyoming or Utah, Arizona, through that area. There are so many places to be able to go to. But the southwest, whether it's Antelope Canyon or Zion Park or Canyonland or Arches Park, there are so many places that people just don't really spend the time to see, and our country is just absolutely amazing. It's second to none, you know. Just getting the time and the opportunity to vacation in some of the places has been just for us quite an experience. This last January I was able to go to South Africa to go on a photographic safari, and that was just, it was an incredible experience, you know, just to be out where the lions roam and where you see herds of zebra and giraffe and water buffalo and all sorts of different types of animals and birds, and it was quite a unique experience to be able to go there. We were going just in between the bush, and we got in between a herd of elephants at the time, and that's when our guide then, he put it in reverse, and we had to really lay down in the seats because we were in an open Jeep. We had a couple experiences on that trip, but one in particular when we were photographing a rhino. It had stopped and had looked at us, and we were outside of our Jeep that we were on safari with. The rhino didn't like exactly what we were doing, I guess, so it charged at us, probably a warning charge. Our guide told us to get back in the Jeep, and we did. But during that same trip though too, we were actually traveling through the bush in our Jeep. The bush that's in the area that we were at in Africa has like about a 2-inch needle type of protection for it. If it hits you, it would cut you real easily, you know. So we were laying down in the seat when we got out of that area. It was fun though, and we got to see a whole variety of animals. In North Dakota, as we were traveling down the freeway, I saw this old shed or barn that was leaning along the fence line, and when I photograph, I photograph in what's called high dynamic range a lot of the time. And what that does is, instead of manipulating something afterwards in Photoshop, which is really not the way to take a photograph, you end up spending a lot of time. But in taking the photograph, I almost always have my camera on a tripod, and I do multiple exposures of a scene, and they get blended together then. So I do overexposed images of that scene, which everything would look really light in a finished photograph. And then I do normal exposures, and that's kind of what the scene looks like. And then I do underexposed images of it, so everything would look really dark. And those three then, the exposures get blended together into one. So what it typically does is It increases like the saturation of the photographs, so your greens are enhanced or the blues are enhanced. You get more dramatic skies, like in the photograph that you see there, but by doing it in high dynamic range, it adds contrast to that sky and it gives more detail and more dramatic look to the sky. It might look stormier than what it actually had. They all get blended together to try and capture what your eye really sees or what I remember my eye seeing, you know. When I took the photograph, it was about a 30-second long exposure. And so what happened is when you go into Antelope Canyon, you have to go in with a Navajo guide because it's on Navajo Indian Reservation property. The middle part of the day, there are openings in the top of the canyon, and the sun, if it's at the right angle, will shine a beam of light down into the base of the sand of the canyon. You'll see just a bright spot here, but you won't see any of the light itself until the Navajo guide will take a handful of sand and he'll throw it up into the light beam and all the sand falls out, but the dust from the sand gets trapped in the light beam, and so that's what accents and actually shows the beam of light itself. And when I took this and downloaded it in the room that evening, and it looked like, if you saw the print, it looks like an angel that's standing. That one then I titled Angels Among Us, is the title of the finished image. Yeah, it's called Lean on Me Chapel, and it was at St. John's University. To me, it was pretty amazing, you know, just the intertwining of all the willow sapling branches and everything. And I wanted to create a photograph that was different than just going out there in the middle of the day and just recording it. So my son Isaac and I went out last August and did a 7-minute long exposure. During that 7 minutes, then the stars, instead of just being a point of light, you'd see the trail of the star as the exposure was so long. But then during that same time then, we painted the structure itself, the Lean on Me Chapel, with a video light. So as the 7-minute exposure was going on, we were walking around the scene of the structure itself, inside and out. And with the video light, we were lighting the chapel itself and all the willow sapling branches that were inside and outside to create the final photograph that we had taken of it. The basis of photography still is just seeing light. We do quite a bit of research on the internet to find out different things about different areas. Even times of day, what works better, if it's better at sunrise or sunsets. It's not just a hit or miss thing, although it still is with the weather and the sky and the light and everything, because our days are pretty limited when we're on a trip. And those are really the 2 times a day that we really photograph are at sunrise and sunset, because the light is just the nicest at that time. Anyway, after we get home and I download the cards that I've captured the images from onto the computer, and I just kind of glance at them on the computer because I remember the ones that really kind of stand out in my mind, and those are the ones that I look at first and start looking at the composition of the photograph and the light of the photograph. If we did photograph it in high dynamic range, I go through the work of blending those images together. Then if I like it, then I'll go and I'll print a test print of it. There's things that I want more detail in a shadow area or more detail in a highlight area, or I want to crop it differently. Then I'm able to see a physical print instead of just seeing something on a monitor. And every photograph needs to have a subject, and I don't want to have something that I'm working on over in this corner of the photograph really compete with the subject and drawing my eye away from it. I want it to draw your eye to that subject. And so we do everything from capturing the images to going on the different trips to going then into the lab area that we use and print the photographs. And so when we print our photographs, we typically will print them on a metallic paper. And people will usually see an image from a metallic print and it just kind of jumps. It just has more snap to it. That print, once it's finished and I like the way it looks and everything, then we mount those prints onto a gator board. And after that, then we laminate them to help protect the print. But then the lamination also gives the image more depth then too. A lot of times people see them and they think that they're backlit or that we're lighting them special or something. You need light on a photograph to see all the detail and everything, but we're not doing anything to enhance them that someone couldn't do in their own home at all. I like every challenge of photography, you know, whether it's doing wildlife or portrait photography or whatever it is. To me, the landscape, though, to be able to bring back those areas and share them with people, that to me that's our goal, to be able to do that all the time.
You can see Jack's work up close at his studio and gallery in Albany.